Tonight, I'm going to be talking about ecotherapy for self-care. Ecotherapy is also sometimes called nature therapy. And it's based upon the observation that it is good for us to be outdoors in contact with green living things and the soil of the earth and in the sunshine, hearing the sounds of nature like birds and running water and those sorts of things. Most of us know that those things are just relaxing. We find them relaxing when we're out in the wild or maybe in a garden someplace. Many urban gardens in downtown areas, people flock to them during their lunch periods because this is just something we're naturally drawn to. Masonry, of course, as an operative craft, is an outdoor occupation by and large, and that symbolism of that occupation carries through into our speculative art. And some of you may remember from the fellow craft degree that there's this statement that speculative masonry leads the contemplative to view with reverence and admiration the glorious works of creation. So this is something near and dear to our heart. We really do find value in being in nature for many reasons in the Masonic tradition. I mean, if you just think about the symbolism within our rituals, we've got lots of things that directly connect us with nature. There's a lot of emphasis on the sun, for example. We talk about the highest hills and lowest vales as being where our ancient brethren met, the quarries where they worked, the clay of the earth and its significance, and then, of course, acacia, which shows up in our third degree and then in some of our higher degrees in other rites. The fact is that until very recently in the story of humanity, we have spent most of our time outdoors. We evolved as outdoor beings. In fact, I have read that the human eye can discern more shades of green than any other color. And if you think about that from a survival point of view, it makes a lot of sense that we would be able to do that because green is so prevalent in nature that being able to distinguish different shades of green, different tones of green would be an important survival skill. So this is not just something that we intuitively know and that we instinctively know. It's not just something that just has some sort of mild effect on us. There's actually more and more research going into the effect of being outdoors in nature can have on us. We already know a lot about sunlight. That was probably one of the first things to actually be researched. And some of you may know about seasonal affective disorder, which happens to people who are not getting enough full sunlight during the year or during their days. And that's actually a kind of form of depression that happens. And people can also experience anxiety in addition to that. And this is particularly common the farther you move toward the poles because there's just less sunlight that people can experience. Also, we know that sunlight creates vitamin D. That's been known for a very long time, and we're learning more about how important that is to our well-being. So, for example, there's been a lot of recent talk about the role of vitamin D in blood pressure. There are other benefits to sunshine, and one of the resources that I have listed later on will give you a good link to that. But it's not just sunshine. There's also increasing research in other areas of the outdoors that provide us a lot of interesting data about what's going on in our relationship with nature and the natural world. Researchers from UK's University of East Anglia analyzed 143 studies of what is called forest therapy, which is a form of ecotherapy that's particularly about going out into forests and woods. And these studies included data from some 290 million participants from 20 different countries. And they found lots of benefits across the board with these studies. In particular, a 2010 Japanese study of forest bathing, that's a different term for forest therapy, researchers found that elements of the environment, such as the odor of wood, the sound of running stream water, and the scenery of the forest, can provide relaxation and reduce stress. Those taking part in the study experienced lower levels of cortisol, a lower pulse rate, and a lower blood pressure. The cortisol now, that is the chemical in our bodies that is associated with stress. When we're under stress, our body produces cortisol. And one of the effects of cortisol, it has many effects. One of the effects is that it contributes to the body's tendency to store up fat as a protective measure. But it can also contribute, cortisol can also contribute to cardiovascular disease and other problems like that. Another Japanese study showed that gazing at forest scenery, just looking at forest scenery for as little as 20 minutes, reduced cortisol levels by 13.4%. And a 2007 study from the University of Essex in the UK found that a walk in the country reduces depression in 71% of patients. The researchers found that as little as 5 minutes, just 5 minutes in a natural setting, whether walking in a park or gardening in a backyard, improves mood, self-esteem, and motivation. So there's something to think about. If you're just feeling stuck, maybe it's time for you to get outdoors and enjoy a little of the green scenery that might be available to you. Now, there's a really interesting thing here about ecotherapy that I think has been a surprise to a lot of people. And it's the power of green light itself. And you may notice that we're using a green background, and I did that intentionally because of things that I have learned about green light. There was a study done in which longtime sufferers of migraine and other chronic pain conditions were exposed to green light by the pharmacologist named Mohab Ibrahim. He exposed 25 migraine suffering volunteers, first to white lights for 2 hours, and then to green LED lights. And he measured multiple parameters, including pain reduction, frequency of migraines or headaches, frequency of fibromyalgia flare-ups, pain intensity and duration, and overall quality of life. On a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 indicating no pain and 10 the highest level of pain, migraine volunteers had an initial average baseline of 8, which is pretty significant. After completing the green light therapy, their score dropped down to an average of 2.8. The frequency of headaches dropped from 19 to 6.5 per month, and overall quality of life climbed from 48% to 78%. Now, what's going on here? One thing that we know is that green light can reset the circadian rhythm that has to do with sleep. And it affects melatonin, the hormone that regulates our sleep-wake cycles. What appears to be going on here is that a special photoreceptor system in the human eye picks up light and elicits non-visual responses, sending signals to the brain to reset the body's internal clock and alter melatonin production levels. New studies show that there are neuronal connections that span from the retina all the way to the spinal cord, passing through the parts of the brain that control and modulate pain. Green light changes the levels of serotonin and alters the endogenous opioid system, an innate pain relieving system found throughout the central and peripheral nervous system, gastrointestinal tract, and the immune system. And that's also been found by a neurologist at the Houston Methodist Hospital. So lots of research there. And with that, I just want to wrap up this part of the presentation tonight and say, give yourself some opportunity to experience these things. If you've got someplace close to you, maybe it's just getting out in your backyard or your front yard, or maybe there's a garden nearby, someplace, a public garden that you can go to and enjoy for 5 to 20 minutes a day, or maybe even an indoor garden in an office building, something like that. And if you don't have any of those options, I would suggest looking at videos. And I've got a link here for that. Down at the very bottom of this list of resources, you'll see a YouTube video on nature therapy. It's a 30-minute video. Now, you don't need to watch it for 30 minutes, but if you watched it 5 minutes here or there throughout your day at different times, maybe when you feel yourself getting stressed, you could get some of the benefits that we have been talking about here. You'll see some of my other resources that I'm recommending there that can be very helpful to you. Wikipedia actually has a fantastic collection of information on nature therapy. All right, that's about all I have in terms of offering information on ecotherapy and some suggestions about what you can do to take advantage of it. It's a very easy way to improve your quality of life, and it might be something that other people would want to join you in. So